The Terrans held, written by OGGruntComm. Short summary. Terrans are having a last stand against an overwhelming enemy in order to protect civilians. Massive bulkhead doors shudder to life as the reinforced gears, the size of small houses, turn into one another, dragging them towards an interlocked point. Hundreds of different species of different sizes and ages rush into the stronghold behind the threshold. Human, women, children, and their elders mixed in the crowd as they desperately fled within. At a distance gleams the dense light color of skies. Traces, pulse discharges, lasers, etc. litter the skies above. Large husks of once powerful and commanding ships that fought above lay dormant below in molten metal pools. Several explosions ahead shake the ground and color everything in shades of orange and occasionally blue. A massive conflict ranges the entirety of this planet, and its guardians fight for every inch. As the sounds of combat and war draw near, a voice pierces through the wails of the innocent fleeing. "Fall back! Sector Eden is down! Back to the bunker!" A bird-like creature screeched, a large gash across his face, along with several lacerations along its body, signifying how long it's been in the fight. It carried a council service rifle in its right taloned grip, while it calls out to the others. Many soldiers of the Galactic Council break ranks and begin to enter the same bulkhead the civilians had done. Over time, the commander noticed that he hadn't seen a particular species pass him by. After a little more time, he called over the official Battlecom set. "Terrans, I know you understand Galactic Common. The order is to fall back. This comes from the Sector Defense Commander." A moment of silence comes over the net, and right before he presses the mic again, he notices the remaining bit of human forces coming over the tall hillside. With them were several remaining Terran hover tanks, a company worth of Terran soldiers, platoons worth of Terran Marines, and a squad of combat medics. A smile forms across the flesh along his beak before falling back into a frown. He noticed the humans stopped just at the hill's horizon and began checking their ammo, gear, and the placements of their crew-served weapons. A single Terran followed down the hill and approached the commander. "Hey, Tweety," the Terran said. His body looked ravaged by war. Terran armor is known for its insanely dense and protective combat skin/plating and firearms that can penetrate mech armor. They are the most elite fighting force of the galaxy, and right now, a Terran looks as if it's been stomped on, cut up with a cheese grater, and burnt against the sun. "I told you cannot call me that anymore. I got promoted. It looks bad," the sector commander said. Yeah, well, you were Tweety in the academy, and you're Sector Commander Tweety now," the Terran laughed, punching the sector commander on the shoulder. "What are you doing, Brad? Brad. What are you, Tweety? Fucking professionals," the Terran said, legitimate frustration apparent in his eyes. "All right, Smokey. Why aren't you in the stronghold?" The sector commander looked straight into the Terran's eyes. He was much bigger than the other Terrans, that he had never quite understood where the muscle stopped and the fat began. Hence the name, Smokey. "Look, Tweet," the Terran took a deep breath. "We aren't going in there," the Terran said while loading a fresh magazine into his rifle. "But," the sector commander said before being interrupted, "we got our kids in there. You got your kids in there, our pops, moms, etc. This is the last stop. We need to either stop them or slow them until my guys can get here." The Terran gestures to the large blast doors of the facility. "If we don't at least slow them down, they are going to bust in those walls and slaughter everyone we loved, drank with, saw grow up, hatch, whatever. They will get here uncontested and have a lot more time to blast/cut them open. It happened in Sector Eden. It'll happen here." The sector commander stood in silence. "That's if we just go in there and wait for it. We aren't going to do that. We'll hold and continue to hold until we get some help, or we cut down the last man or woman." The Terran placed his rifle to his chest, which caused it to detach magnetically. He put both hands on Sector Commander's shoulders. "You get yourself in there and prepare. Scrounge up every man and woman that can hold a damn gun and point at the door. Once it closes, you don't fucking open it." The Sector Commander smokes and nods. "I'm not an idiot, Smokey. You understand that this means suicide, right?" The Sector Commander said, a hint of sadness within. "Don't know what you're talking about. We're just trying to get some medals. Us Terrans kicked your asses back in the Forithian Wars. This is like a Tuesday for us." The Terran shoved the sector commander towards the heavy bulkhead close to being sealed. "Yeah, all right then, Smokey. I'll see you later," the sector commander said before turning and walking into the stronghold. He turned his head to see the Terran looking back at him. The Terran nodded and turned back towards the others, yelling out, "Hey, Alti, get that tank looking down at that The door shut with a heavy clunk. Many mechanisms link and lock into place before settling. The sounds of whimpering and crying behind him became more apparent to the sector commander, and just as he turned away from the bulkhead, he heard a very muffled "Contact front!" followed by gunfire and explosions. The sector commander rushed towards the command post within the stronghold, bypassing many of the injured and begging with one track of mind. When he entered, he immediately ordered the front to be displayed to him. Multiple camera views opened along with a hologram displaying the blue force trackers around. He saw Smokey standing alongside two other Terran Marines, firing their weapons in the distance at the encroaching enemy. With each passing moment, he witnessed Terran after Terran fall to overwhelming firepower. Even while some looked to have their innards pouring from their stomachs, they continued to fight. Combat medics rushed back and forth between downed Terrans, attempting to get the few savable to combat able. The two main battle tanks fired their main gun even as they began to melt from the non-stop engagement. He saw a plasma cannon hit the tank directly, the tank going silent. Terrans rushing into the tank and taking the dead ones out, only to use the tank again. After nearly an hour, he noticed Smokey look into several magazines around him. He'd call out to the rest, and they did the same. By this time, the tanks were either destroyed or their barrels melted. Smokey pointed at the wounded Terran and then towards the doors. The sector commander witnessed the Terrans drag the wounded while under fire to the doors. The Terrans placed their wounded against the doors so that they were propped up, handing their rifles, magazines, and grenades to them before standing spread out in front of the doors. Smokey climbed into the tank with a melted barrel and shifted it towards the blast doors. After some time, smoke canisters are fired in front of the tank's turret, pointing at the door. This was followed by the Terrans deploying their own smoke canisters. The overwhelming enemy had just started climbing over the hills, cutting down the remaining Terrans holding the higher ground. The smoke began to bellow and cascade across the entire front of the blast doors, covering every Terran and wounded Terran with it. The sector commander focused on Smokey's commands, and his heart dropped once he heard the last word. Smokey didn't call for retreat. He wasn't covering their escape back into the stronghold. He yelled out one distinct word that solidified his legacy for years after the world's liberation. "Blades!" A solid blue bladed light emanated from the hilt he carried in his one undamaged hand. This was followed by many streams of blue light coming from every standing Terran. And as the enemy flowed into the smoke-covered battlefield, for another hour each light dimmed out but continued to fight. And for another 15 minutes, the wounded held off the rest. Help arrived soon after, before the enemy even had a chance to touch the stronghold doors. Steel fell upon them like rain. Orbital bombardment cannons from the newly arrived Terran fleet completely decimated what little remained of the attacking force. The sector commander finally gave the order to unseal the bulkhead doors. He entered the bloody battlefield ahead of him, piles of bodies stacked by each fallen Terran, the biggest being near a slumped, larger-than-life Terran. His blade still activated, and his hand still slightly held around the hilt. His wife cried beside him, but his son stood. Tears stained his ash-covered face, but he did not weep. His eyes were set aflame. His body posture straightened, and his hands clasped tightly. The sector commander stood next to Smokey's son, speaking after some time. "He saved thousands, son. You should be proud." The young Terran looked up at the sector commander, then back at his lying father. "I'll save more." End of story. Story number 2. Humans Are Special, written by Snow Traditional 6008. So, what makes humans special, huh? Of all the assignment topics of all the species in the known galaxy, I get humans. I think my instructor for Xeno Studies hates me. That's the only reason I can fathom. Why couldn't I have gotten the Rohal? Not much has been written about them. Granted, they are very dull grey blobs. They all live in a dull grey existence on a dull grey world, but I'm sure I could have come up with something on them. The Bentrope hive minds are fascinating, along with the other upteenth number of other species, but no, they are all assigned to other students. I tried to change my subject topic, but unless I want a full 40% on the assigned topic will get me, which I desperately need to pass, I'm stuck. I probably should have studied more instead of playing human video games so much. But how am I supposed to come up with a new take on them that hasn't been done to death by a lot of cleverer and more accomplished academics? So, what makes humans so special compared to the rest of us? Well, let's see. There's their strength and resilience. Oh by gods, how many times I've had to read some article that just goes on about those traits. Nope. What else? How about their biology and the self-repairability? Yeah, nah, heard it before. How about the persistence, hunting, empathy, spite? Oh, by the gods, I'm bored just thinking this. How about the way they can't twist their head 360 degrees without dying, or at least being badly injured? What about their ability to become bored, just like I'm getting, and dangerous if without any stimulus? Or their ability to suck an egg through a 30-meter hosepipe? Okay, so now I'm just making stuff up. I can go that route, make crap up, except damn them to the lowest level of the fires of Volk. Instructor is one of the most celebrated and accomplished in the field of human studies, so nothing is getting past that guy. Right, I've vented. Now back to it. What makes humans different? The human psychology is a complex and, as I look in my bookshelves, 2 volumes on human psychology, books on various cultural proclivities, books on human myths and legends, books on human wars, the latest updated copy of Gray's Anatomy, and an array of books on nearly every other subject about them. I'd scream, but I don't want to annoy my roommate. He's much bigger than me, for starters. Bloody sports scholarship. I've got 6 hours. Books. Classes, Xeno Studies. Instructor, Professor Towett Gould. Assignment, write an essay about your assigned species and try to do it without rehashing ideas already covered by others in the field of xenology. Assigned species, humans. In particular, what makes them unique on the galactic stage. Written by Sobol Pembiltry. What makes humans unique compared to other species. As it turns out, there is a significant amount about humans that makes them unique as a species, be it their biology, psychology, cultural aspects, and the list goes on and on and on. But the one thing that truly stands out about humans, more than all the others within the known galaxy, is the sheer volume of information about them. No other species has ever captivated, confused, scared, worried, or just plainly fascinated all other species within such a short time as much as the humans have. That their entire existence has been researched and written about to the point there is nothing new to write about them, other than the above statement, of course. From Professor Towett Gould to Sobol Pembiltry, subject essay assignment humans. Mr. Pembiltry, well done. As always, you have surprised me once again with your ability to think outside the standard responses. Kind regards, Professor Gould. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.